Political polarization. Shalom and welcome to my channel. In last week's video, we spoke about some cultural differences between Israel and the US. In this video, we're going to go into depth about some of the similarities between Israel and the US. There's a reason that we have this strong alliance and this strong friendship because we actually have a lot in common. The first one is we both fought off the British Empire to gain our independence. Now, okay, this is completely historical, context is completely different, right? US was the first country to break free from the British Empire in 1770s, and later many countries followed suit, including Israel in 1948. The origin of both countries is religious persecution. Now, the Pilgrims were English Protestants who broke free from the Church of England and were persecuted for this, and later moved to the US where they can have freedom of religion to worship in their more biblical, simpler style of Christianity. Israel was founded as a Jewish homeland after many years of persecution, pogroms, of course, culminating in the terrible Holocaust. Our ties to the land of Israel, of course, are rooted much deeper, biblical, historical, but the formation of the modern state of Israel was very much driven by European anti-Semitism. Also, in general, we just share a lot of common values. If you take an average Israeli and meet him with an average American, they actually have a lot of common values. I'm always surprised when I'm on YouTube and I see some random American mom, totally different religion than me, totally different upbringing, and I'm surprised to see how much we have in common. Both are democracies. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, which means we share all these democratic ideas, the idea of freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, human rights, strong foundation in what's called the Judeo-Christian morals and ethics. This could mean like free will and personal responsibility and many more values that they're shared. There are differences, but there's also a lot of common ground and common values. Both countries put a very strong emphasis on having a strong army, and they put their money towards this. So for the US, this can mean 39 roughly percent of the entire world's military budget is the US's military budget. And for Israel, this can mean 5% of our GDP is invested in the army. I know that in both countries there's ongoing public debate about this military spending, but I can tell you that in Israel, since October 7th, sadly, every Israeli realizes that we need this strong army. We have a lot of enemies. This is no joke. So this spending is something that we realize that we have no choice. Both countries have had mass immigration. For the US, this means from basically every country in the world, people arrived at the US seeking opportunity and freedom. And for Israel, this means Israel is the Jewish homeland for Jews all over the world. This means Jews came to Israel from about 100 countries, from Ethiopia, Europe, African countries, Arabic countries. It's a myth that Israelis are these white Europeans. We have Jews from all over. So initially in Israel, they had this idea of this new Israeli, the new Jew, having this melting pot where everyone is going to become this united. And over time, we realized there is so much to gain from the different cultures and different foods and different even holidays that they have, these unique holidays. I'm curious to know what you would say about the US today. Is it more this American melting pot, or is it maintaining unique identities to different cultures? I'd love to hear in the comments below. I love the comments and I read all of them. Both are leaders in innovation, technology, startups, culture of risk-taking, starting businesses, innovation. Something about our systems reward this. In the US is considered a very business-friendly environment, and Israel, which has a much smaller high-tech industry because we're a much smaller population, but they are considered the startup nation with the highest startups per capita. Why is Israel so good at tech? So I actually made a whole video about that if you're interested, but a lot of people attribute this success to the IDF and the mandatory army service that builds character and builds independence and different things. Just to give you an example, I have a lot of friends that attempted to start different businesses after their army service, and recently I have two friends who are both software engineers, and instead of working and making a lot of money in the high-tech industry, they decided to start a new company and to be bootstrapped for about a year or two till they recently got funding, and they're actually taking off, thank God. But this is something about our culture that we're willing to take risks. Political polarization. Both countries experience intense public debate and polarization. In Israel, this means in recent years with the judicial reform, which I have an entire video explaining if you're interested in viewing that. We've seen hundreds of thousands of Israelis take to the street demonstrating against this judicial reform, while hundreds of thousands of other Israelis strongly believe that we need this reform. The US is also considered a very polarized society with a lot of intense events happening recently. You could probably share in the comments more about this, but I do believe that a lot of times the media, and specifically social media, makes us feel that we're much more polarized than we are. And I said this in the judicial reform, you can have two friends that are completely opposite sides of the judicial reform, and we're working together in the office, and when you see them in person, you realize that they're actually not that different than you, and you actually do share a lot of common values. But when you're on social media and you see these people, it forms a lot of hatred and makes you feel that you're much more polarized than you are. Both have large Jewish communities, actually the two largest Jewish communities in the world. In the US, there's about 6 million Jews. In Israel, there's about 7 million Jews, and Jews outside of these two countries is 2 million. So these are very strong Jewish communities, and we have ties with them. A lot of American Jews care deeply about Israel, and we have a relationship with them. Unique roles of the US and Israel in the world stage. Now, if you got it to this point in the video, I feel comfortable sharing about this more spiritual point, that both countries feel that they have this unique role and purpose in the world to shape the world. Now, a lot of countries have, pride in their country and everything, but not everyone has this feeling of a specific role and purpose for the entire world. Now, the US is a beacon of light, of freedom, of democracy to the entire world. And for Israel, many Israelis see their country as the place where they could fulfill their mission to the world, which is to be a light to the nations. Both of these countries have this sense of destiny and purpose that they want to share with the world. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any more things to add on to this list, I'd love to hear in the comments below. Shalom, and I hope to see you in the next video.